G'day guys, welcome back to the channel and to this supplementary video today where I just want to share my top 10 eBay buying tips. Now these are for general buying, and I will also try to focus and comment on wristwatch buying specific tips as we go along. And now before I move on, let's do a quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Phoibos Ocean Master 1000-meter water resistance, so I can do stuff like wash the dishes tonight, helping my wife do that. So wristwatch check done. Let's get on with it. I've been an eBay member for over 10 years, and over that time I've bought hundreds of items. Now a good proportion of that will be watch and horology specific and related items. So I'm no special expert, but I've had a lot of time to think about the process, and this is what I want to share, because even early on when I spoke to a lot of people, there were people who heard about eBay, but many people were a little bit afraid, unfamiliar, and even now there are people I come across who have their doubts about shopping on eBay. So I just want to share this, maybe not this particular audience watching YouTube. You guys are probably quite familiar, but I just want to share my own experience and what I've learned over those years that I've used eBay for. So in no specific order, these are my top 10 tips. Number one, know your target product when you're starting out, and by that I mean you know the specific features, the dimensions, the weights, the I guess capabilities, depending on what exactly you're shopping for, whether it's cameras or rice cookers, whatever it is. The abbreviations that are used in the product, the nicknames. So when it comes to watches, stuff like for example the Seamaster, SMCP or SMPC is a common abbreviation for Seamaster Professional Ceramics. So that's stuff you might want to be familiar with when you're searching, so you can use those terms when you're searching. Seiko is a famous example. I think stuff like the Orange Monster, the Tuna, the Sumo, those are names that Seiko never came up with, but the users came up with them, and they're in wide use. So you want to know about that. You want to search widely and try to use those terms so you don't miss things that some sellers may not use in their listings. Learn how to spot, I guess, suboptimal product or fake product or knockoffs. Do your research into what are the clues, particularly in watches, and particularly if you're spending quite a lot of money, you want to know what are the big things to spot if you're going to call out fakes or knockoffs. Number two, know your target price. So especially if it's collectibles, if there are items that are not going to come on market very frequently, you want to know what people expect to pay, what you expect to pay for the particular condition of the item. Research outside eBay. Look at forums, look at grey retail for watches. Grey retail obviously for new items will be cheaper than authorized dealers, because you don't get the authorized dealer factory warranty, but you get an indication of the type of discount you may be expected to get on retail, on selling. When you research on eBay, beware that you can actually use the advanced search option to look at sold items within the last 3 months, so you can actually find out what items have sold for, what people have actually paid for items. So just beware. You want to use sold items, not completed items. Completed items doesn't mean that people paid for those items at the price listed. Sold items, it does mean that somebody actually has paid that price. Number three, think outside the box. Now, before you even jump into eBay, it's important to just look at other marketplaces. Now, eBay is a fantastic marketplace. It's huge, arguably the biggest, where people can sign on and sell things. But it's not the only marketplace. So other examples, watch specific, Rakuten for the Japanese domestic market, sometimes has cheaper stuff on there. And of course, if you trust the company, if you're already familiar with the company, buying direct from their website rather than through their eBay store often is cheaper because they don't have to pay eBay the seller's fees. So just be aware of those things. Grey retail, of course, for watches, again, it is a place you can look for. Often, I guess, depending on how much you want to spend, a grey retailer, if you don't mind not having a factory warranty, you may be comfortable buying it from a grey retailer rather than buying from an authorized dealer through eBay, where you might pay a slight premium. Number 4, and this is quite key for general buying, is set your budget and try to stick to it. Now, of course, you may find something that's close to your set price, and you might want to, just stretch that extra bit, 10%, 15%. But, I find that if you try to stick to the budget that you had in mind, you thought through it and you want to spend only this much for this item, you probably come away a little bit more satisfied than if you stretch, say, 30%, 40%. You might in fact get some buyer's regret after you've forked out a little bit more than you initially planned to. So, I think overall it's always been a good rule for me to try to stick to the intended budget. Number 5, be familiar with the eBay terms in use. So it's important to understand what sellers mean when they use certain abbreviations. So some of them would be MIB, MISB, mint in box or mint in sealed box. Mint being, it's in perfect condition. New in box, NIB. New old stock, NOS, MOSC, a specific thing. Mint on sealed card if you have products, like certain tools or toys that are on sealed card. That's something that they may use. Watch specific wise, homage, KO is knockoff. Homage doesn't means that it's actually not the actual item. So just beware of that. If a seller places the term genuine followed by a brand, genuine Omega, genuine Seiko, they are basically going to be held liable to providing a genuine product, a real product by eBay. They're not going to get away with selling you a knockoff. They will, they will basically be penalized if they try to pull off something and call it genuine. So just beware of those terms. Number 6, once you've located the seller who's got your item of interest, find out about the seller. The details are on eBay. Aim to buy from some reputable, experienced sellers. There's no hard and fast rule, but I find that if you look for sellers with around 5,000 plus feedback score, aim for a 99% or higher positive rating, you're probably not going to run into trouble. I personally have never run into trouble if I follow those particular guidelines. You can go lower, like say 1,000 feedback score and 100% rating, or sellers who I guess are bona fide, just individual intermittent users. They may have a feedback score of only a few hundred, but if you communicate well, get a feel of what kind of person they are, you may be comfortable buying from them anyway. And then just beware, just be clear that you have buyer protection. Okay, for watch-specific terms about sellers, don't be afraid to ask whether they are an authorized dealer, whether they're a storefront, and if they're going to stamp a dealer, warranty on the product that you're getting. If you're only going to spend a couple of $100 on a watch, maybe you don't have to bother about factory warranty. But if you're going to be going to $700, $800, $900 or higher, you may want to make sure that it's coming from a dealer. It's going to have a recognized factory warranty if you're buying a brand new item. And I certainly have tried to do that if I'm spending $500 or above on eBay, or online for that matter, any online store. Okay, so number 7, eBay snipe when possible, and sniping. It is something that people talk about, and that means when an item is on auction, so not for buy it now, but when an item is on auction, be aware of when that item is ending and keep your budget in mind. The budget is particularly important in this case. You don't want to emotionally push up your bid, and only put in your bid in the last minute. Some people talk about last 10 seconds. I think I tried for the last maybe 30-20 seconds. You don't want to miss it because you've got a bit of a lag in your internet connection. So put in the bit in the last within the last minute, and hopefully your set budget is good enough to get you that item. You don't want to, I guess, put in the bid too early and get pushed up by just people taking a pot shot at the item. You want to leave it to the last minute, and you tend to get better results these days. I mean, auctions seem to be the minority of items that I search for now. Most of the time it's a buy it now. But if you do come across an auction for an item, just keep in mind that's probably a strategy you want to use if you're going to be awake and it's not going to be 3 a.m. where you are when that item ends. Okay, so number 8. Don't forget about the shipping details. Don't forget that postage costs can be on top of the item, so factor that in your budget. You don't want to pay for say $500 for a watch and then to be bombed with another 500, because that's actually what's the listed registered post that the seller has put on their page. So look this up. Don't forget the postage can be a factor in coming into your price. For sellers outside the United States, I'd like to hear what you guys think. Actually, the global shipping program, something that's come in recently, I haven't had great experience for that. The prices seem to be inflated. They talk about customs charges when a lot of items that I order don't have any customs charges anyway, but they factor in a custom cost in there, which I think to me it's nonsense, and it takes longer than if the seller often posts direct to me with FedEx or even just standard USPS if it's coming from the States. So let me know what you think. I personally avoid any seller that only uses the GSP. I prefer just not having the GSP if possible. That's my personal experience. Import charges, so in your country, beyond certain thresholds, you may have to pay some taxes and customs on the item you're bringing in. In Australia, it's items worth over 1,000 Australian dollars, and it's our job as the buyer to find out about that. It's not the seller's job. So just beware. The seller has to mark an item value on the parcel that they're sending you, and your border protection, your customs may slap you with a fee if it's beyond a certain value. So just find out about that, and don't fall into any nasty surprises if you haven't done that homework. Okay, number 9, nearly there. Leave feedback. Feedback score is not as critical for a buyer. It's a lot more critical for a seller, but it is still useful. The more feedback you have, the more, I guess, more reputable a buyer that you come across as, particularly if it's, in the hundreds. Buyers, you're not going to struggle to get 100%, I hope. Just pay your fees and you'll get a positive feedback. And, what you want is to build up your feedback score over the years. So, looking at a buyer with a score of, 500 is quite different to a buyer of 15. Sellers are just going to have less questions and doubt about you paying up, and as a rule pay up straight away. There's no strong reason to delay if you're going to get your item quicker if you pay immediately anyway. And lastly, now this was in no particular order, but number 10, use PayPal, probably one of the more important ones. PayPal has great buyer protection. It's free to sign up anyway, and you have the option to pay in your home currency. If you're buying across countries, you don't have to use PayPal's currency exchange rate. If your bank or your credit card gives you a better rate, you can choose that. The buyer protection has been extended to 180 days where you can open a dispute, a case. That's plenty of time to try your item, receive your item, try your item out, and if there's any questions or faults, you can still open a claim 180 days after after paying for it. eBay, on the other hand, they do have a buyer protection program. I've never relied on it. You only have 45 days if you want to open a case within eBay itself. And following these guidelines, I've had zero problems using PayPal on eBay. I've had a few cases where it turned out it was fraud. The item was actually falsely advertised, but As soon as you recognize that, you raise a dispute with PayPal, they freeze the account and you get your funds back. You know, they don't get away with it as long as you use you know, something with buyer protection such as PayPal. So, you know, there we have it. That's my top 10 eBay buying tips, you know, with some watch specific tips thrown in there. Please let me know what you think. You know, I'm sure a large proportion of people watching this will have great experience on eBay. I'd like to hear your own tips and tricks and your own experiences, good or bad, over the years that you've had. So thank you guys again for watching this far. Give us a like, give us a comment, you know, subscribe to keep in touch, and I will see you next time.